Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Carrie.
Sonia, what was your best bite this week?
I'm so excited to tell you about my best bite.
I can't wait to hear.
I'm always excited to.
This is like my favorite conversation with you every week.
It's the best.
Yes, it is.
So our friend Adrienne Hale,
yes,
who you make her bread
every week,
every
single week, or sometimes multiple times a week. I use her bread recipe,
which just makes me so happy. It's because you're two of my closest food friends, and the fact that you're connected through this recipe. You've never met in person.
No, never met. I've baked her bread so many times, and I gift her bread so many times because her recipe was developed to make 2 loaves at the same time, with the idea that you keep one and you give one to someone who you want to share it with.
We'll relink her bread recipe in the show notes because it's such a good one. So Adrienne came out with a new book just this month.
Oh,
and it's called Einkorn Made Easy. And sometimes when you say Einkorn, people are like, what in the living heck is Einkorn?
I love Einkorn. I use Einkorn in her bread recipe.
You already make her bread with Einkorn.
I do, because I buy a lot of pantry staples from Thrive Market, and they sell Einkorn.
Do you get the Jovial brand?
Yes, I do. And they have it at my Whole Foods, too.
Yeah. So people think it's hard to find, but actually Jovial makes a brand that you can find at a lot of Whole Foods and health stores. It's an ancient grain. You will learn a lot about Einkorn in this book. She is not asking us to promote it. I just fell in love with this book when I got it. And of course, I already know Adrienne's an incredible writer and recipe developer, but this book has so many good recipes and they are easy, so approachable. You just don't think of incorporating this ingredient in all these different and interesting and easy ways. But there was one recipe that leapt off the page for me because I love crackers of all kinds and cookies of all kinds, and I love baking in general. And I've been wanting to make homemade graham crackers for a while.
Wait, you made homemade graham crackers with Einkorn?
I did.
What?
I have to say,
that's so fancy.
Well, first of all, it's not fancy. It's one of the easiest things I've baked all month.
Really?
It's truly easy. The Einkorn already, because it's such a rich grain, it has a kind of sweetness to it. It has almost like a molassesy flavor inherently in the grain that is the perfect grain for a graham cracker. Don't get thrown off by the word graham cracker. Think of it as an Einkorn cookie or something, and you'll...
Okay. I think I could reorient my brain. When you keep saying I made homemade graham crackers, I'm like, that's so extra. I would never do that because a graham cracker out of a package is tasty.
It's tasty. I love a graham cracker out of pack. It's one of my favorite in the cracker cookie category.
Totally.
I would say a homemade graham cracker is a little bit different. It's a little less airy, but she gives you instructions on how to get that kind of snappy feeling to your graham cracker. But Carrie, it's really not hard. It's 1.5 cups of einkorn flour. You add some baking powder and salt, and then you're creaming together some brown sugar and butter. That's where all that extra molassesy flavor comes from.
Those caramel notes.
You add in an egg and a little vanilla. You can add in cinnamon. I ended up adding a bunch of other spices because I was making it almost like a cookie, like a sugar and spice cookie. But in her recipe, it's just a touch of cinnamon, so not a lot of spice. And then that's the entire ingredient list. You make a dough, you wrap it up in plastic, you stick it in your fridge and let it chill for a little bit for a couple hours.
So it needs time to rest. That's kind of the difference between this and a regular chocolate chip cookie that I guess you rest.
I would say almost every cookie needs some time to rest.
Yeah.
There are some you can make straight away. This would be harder because you want it to firm up so it's easier to roll out like you would any cracker, cookie, pie dough. That time for the flour to really absorb all the moisture and all the ingredients helps whatever you're baking.
Because it is a whole grain.
It is a whole grain.
Yes.
So I made this one day and then used it the next. I like to make a little bit of dough, stick it in the fridge, not have to think about it. And then when I want to bake it off, it's there and ready. And she says you can do it up to one day in advance. So then you gather your dough, you flour your surface. You can use more einkorn flour to flour your surface. And you want to roll it really, really thin. She says between an eighth and a 16th
Oh,
thinness.
that's really thin. And there's no all-purpose flour in this. This is
There's none.
100% einkorn. Because you're also
100%
flouring
einkorn.
with einkorn.
And you're flouring with einkorn. So there's
Wow.
no, and so some people who have wheat sensitivity, not gluten allergies, just
Right.
sensitivity,
Yeah.
find that einkorn agrees with them better, which is really interesting. And so you roll out really thin. If you don't roll it out super thin, then it's more like a cookie than a cracker, and it's still delicious. So it's kind of your preference.
It's like choose your own adventure. Choose your own homemade graham cracker
There
adventure.
you go. And then you can use one of those fluted cutters. If you have them, you can use just a glass and cut out circles. You could use a biscuit cutter. You could cut out shapes. You can cut out anything you want in any way. I found one of these fluted roller cutters, like literally in a free bin on the street in Portland. Because that's
Only
like a,
in Portland.
that's
It's
like a
such
Portland
charming
thing.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah. That someone's like, I actually had 2 of these, so I'm going to put one out for my neighbors to take. I mean,
It was like that. So I have
wonderful.
one. So I love an excuse to use it, and I just cut squares, but you really could use anything. You don't need to make it fancy. Then she tells you you can brush it with milk or not for a little extra shine. So I brushed it with milk, and then I sprinkled cinnamon sugar on top too to make it
so
even more.
extra.
Yeah, to make it a little extra.
Of course you did.
What I love about this graham cracker is that it lasts up to a month in an airtight container.
No, really?
That's what she says. And I believe her. Having made it and have it sit out for a while, it really holds up. And not in the fridge, on the counter. And also
That
you
is
can
so
freeze
surprising.
it.
Wow. This is what one of the things I love about you and the way that you describe your grandparents is that they just had cakes sitting out in case someone happened to stop by. And listen, my grandparents did a version of that too. They just would usually use a store-bought coffee cake from one of our favorite bakeries. But this idea that you've always kind of got something delicious in your cookie jar in case a friend stops by, what a joy.
Also, a homemade s'more on an
Oh,
a
God.
homemade s'more.
I hadn't even gone there.
I think that I had a little bit of chocolate with mine and I was like, oh my God, this is
Your little daily
my
chocolate
little.
square.
I had at the end of the night, I had a cup of tea, a little bit of dark chocolate, and one of these graham crackers.
Oh my God.
I think what's cool in Adrienne's book is there really are recipes for everyone. It's really a fun read. I highly recommend it. It's nice to have something that gives you access to an ingredient. I don't make sourdough bread like you. And so for me, I want to use more interesting flours and local flours. And I actually picked up my einkorn at the farmer's market. I just discovered a stand that sells it. And I was like, that's really cool.
It's not the jovial. It's they're
it's
growing their own einkorn.
Yeah, it's an Oregon grown. And I was like, I want to find more ways to incorporate this ingredient because it is so delicious. So it's just so nice to have this as a resource now. So Carrie, what was your best bite of the week?
Well, Sonia, we didn't plan this. So I'm very surprised and also not surprised that we're talking about Adrienne's bread because I did make a batch of Adrienne's bread that makes 2 loaves. I used her dough to make monkey bread.
See, we do not plan this, and we are not sponsored by Adrienne.
No,
I
we're
feel
not.
like you sound like the Adrienne Hale commercial. She is our friend, but this is so, wow, I had no idea.
Well, here's the thing. I was catering something for my son's school. I wanted to make those 4 dips in a pan. So I used almost the entire batch of dough to make this 4 dips in a pan. And I had this wonderful dough left over.
We have to let people know if they didn't hear our appetizer
Appetizers.
episode. The 4 dips in a pan is such a fun idea, but it's where you take like literal rolls, like even pre-made biscuit rolls
Yes.
or pre-made dough, and you put it all around a pan, and then you add 4 store-bought dips in the center so it kind of bakes all together and you can rip it off, right?
Yes, you bake it in a window pane shape on a sheet pan. You do it around the outside and then you do a T in the middle. What I did was I just did 4 of the same dip, which was spinach and artichoke.
The perfect
And
dip.
people loved it. But while I was at home and I was making this dip, I had leftover sourdough dough. And so I thought, what am I going to do with this? So I was staring at this bowl of leftover dough, and it reminded me of when I was a kid. My sister would always make monkey bread. She would make it maybe once a week. She would do it in the very classic Midwestern way, which was with a biscuit dough that you bought at the grocery store, or like a crescent roll dough, any of those doughs that you can get and keep in your fridge. And what she would do is she would take scissors and cut it into small shapes, and then you dip it in butter, and then you roll it in cinnamon sugar, and you put it in a pan and you bake it together and you eat it. Every kid and kid like adult,
Yeah,
and
what's not to like?
And so what I did was I just took a stick of butter, I melted it, I took those little dough balls and I dipped them in some butter, I rolled them in cinnamon sugar, and then I let it proof for a little bit longer so it kind of all came together. I baked it in a pie plate, this beautiful round pie plate. I actually took it with me when I went to this event at our school, just because I thought, well, I don't want this like sitting around at my house. And it was gone in 5 minutes. One person came up to me, she goes, wait, is that monkey bread? And I was like, yeah, it's monkey bread. And I also used sourdough dough. And she was like, wow, it's so next level.
Sourdough monkey bread sounds like such a more flavorful take on monkey bread, because I do like monkey bread, but it can be really rich.
So rich.
Buttery and sweet. And to have that tanginess of the sourdough sounds like it would really kind of balance it out. But if you didn't bake sourdough and you didn't bake bread, what kind of dough could you make for monkey bread?
My family would always use Pillsbury biscuits. And I think what my sister would usually do, if I remember correctly, she was the one who always made it for our family. You would take one of those biscuits and just cut it into quarters. And then you would take all those little pieces and you would just either drizzle them with melted butter or put them in a bowl of melted butter and kind of toss them around until they're coated. And then you toss them in a bowl of cinnamon sugar. She would usually bake it in a pie plate or an 8x8 metal baking pan or something. You can just immediately throw that in the oven, so it wouldn't take very long to make. This also didn't take long to make because once I rolled it, I just let it proof till it got a little puffy, and then I baked it. Listen, cinnamon, sugar, and sourdough together baking in your ovens makes your whole house smell like heaven. It was really such a special treat.
Monkey bread is a special treat. These are both like sort of pull apart ideas. The dips and the monkey bread, there's that way in which if you just roll little balls of dough, whether it's a store-bought dough or a whole grain sourdough, which I love that you're making it with Einkorn. I know Adrienne's listening and she's gonna just be so thrilled to hear that. These are really fun ideas.
The savory or the sweet version.
Yeah, I love that. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating.